Good evening. So we'll continue from where we stopped yesterday. So others will be joining us as we go. So we started talking about vulnerability assessment and vulnerability research. So look at the difference between vulnerability assessment and vulnerability research. And we talked about the fact that vulnerability research, that's just trying to get the latest trends, the security trends, what's happening, what are the security threats that are out there. That's what vulnerability research is all about. So, as a cybersecurity analyst, you need to be on top of your game to know, okay, what are the latest security threats? What are the malwares that have been now released? What are the new TTPs of attackers? So that's vulnerability research. Then vulnerability assessment is using vulnerability scanning machines to scan um, networks, devices to see if vulnerabilities exist on those devices. So let me share my screen. Okay, so this is where we stopped yesterday, talking about vulnerability and exposure. So Anthony Tony, do you have a question?
Yes, sir, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, sir. Yesterday I was trying to use the V VMware to after downloading the VMware, I also tried to like download the parrot from the VMware, but it wasn't working. So I don't know
No,
what
no, no,
to.
no, no, no. Don't download the parrot from the VMware. Download the parrot normally on your
I've
get
done,
on
I've done
your
that, sir. I've done that, sir.
okay.
I've done that, sir. But I don't know how to like link it up to the VMware so I could use to practice, sir.
Okay. What we'll do, we
You
can't
can help,
attend to that. We can't attend to that now. What we'll do is that um maybe let me see, maybe Tuesday we we can try to link up so that I can see where you're having issues and guide you on that. So maybe
Okay,
Tuesday.
okay, sir.
Mm, mm.
Okay.
But have you followed the guide on the website, the link I sent to you?
Yes, I've done that, sir.
Okay, you couldn't find the solution to the challenge there.
Yeah, I
But have
couldn't
you
find.
installed your VMware? Yeah, have you installed the
Yes,
VMware?
I've done that, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let's see by what was it called? Tuesday. So maybe we can drop a message for me on, I don't know if you know my number on the it's we're in the same group. That group, I think, cyber security review or something.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
I'll search for the number there.
so
Okay.
so that you can chat me up, then maybe we can do Google Meet and um, try to you can share your screen. Let me see where the challenge is.
Okay, sir.
All right, so you can check out this what's it called? Check out this website cve.org. cve.org. There are different probabilities and exposures there. Common probability and exposures, um, basically for software and applications. So what attackers do is that once they are able to find out, all that we have been doing is trying to find out what the target device or the target network is running on, what applications are running there, the services that are on and all that. So with that information, we will now search all these sites like this another one. You can also check it out. cwe.mitre.org. It's common weaknesses enumeration. So, like for instance, on this website now, look at C SMB, which server message blocks, which we talked about when we're talking about enumeration. So if you know that, if you see that the SMB is open on that particular target, you can check here for different vulnerabilities and try to exploit them. So it gives you the avenue to exploit them and also to be able to breach such systems. So that's what all these sources are for. Then vulnerability management life cycle, pre-assessment phase. That's when we're talking about vulnerability management life cycle. This is an important process that helps identify and remediate security weaknesses before they can be exploited. So, what an organization does that they don't wait for the attacker to take advantage or exploit the vulnerability. They remediate it first. They try to remediate it before it can be exploited. So, this includes defining the risk posture and policies for an organization, creating a complete asset list of systems, scanning and assessing the environment for vulnerabilities and exposures, and taking action to mitigate the vulnerabilities that are identified. So the implementation of a vulnerability management lifecycle helps gain a strategic perspective regarding possible cybersecurity threats and renders insecure computing environments more resilient to attacks. So now, basically, this lifecycle is about how do you try to make sure that before the attacker gets to exploit the weaknesses that exist within your IT environment, you do so and remediate it. So it's just like maybe a crack in a building that could, or a faulty lock, or something that could allow maybe an armed robber or something, or a burglar, maybe a weak structure somewhere, or something that could allow an assailant to be able to gain access. So you assess it, and before anybody is able to take advantage, you have already dealt with it by making sure that that is remediated. So in such a case, um, that assailant, if there's any, will not be able to even see any loophole, not to talk of exploiting it. So that's just the scenario we're trying to paint here. So the phases involved in vulnerability management are, we have the pre-assessment phase. So in this pre-assessment phase, the assets are identified, and we create a baseline. We create a baseline. So when you are talking of baseline, when it comes to IT security, we're talking about, okay, this is how this thing works normally. On a normal day, this is how these IT devices, the network, this is how they work. So that's a baseline, so that in future, whenever there's any deviation, you always compare what you have to what was there before. So vulnerability assessment phase, that's you do vulnerability scan vulnerability scan. So this will involve vulnerability scanning engines. Then after that, you now do post assessment phase, which is you look at the risk, the vulnerabilities you have seen, what risks do they pose. Then remediation, taking care of the vulnerabilities. blocking them, verification, have they been taken care of, then monitoring, continuous monitoring to check if indeed those things are no longer exploitable. So pre-assessment phase, you identify and understand the business process. You identify the applications, data, and services that support the business processes and perform code reviews. Identify approved software drivers and the basic configuration of each system. Create an inventory of all assets and prioritize to rank critical assets. Understand the network architecture and map the network infrastructure. Identify the controls that are already in place. Understand policy implementation and standards compliance. Define the scope of the assessment. Create information protection procedures to support effective planning, scheduling, coordination, and logistics. So that's the pre-assessment phase. You want to, how does the business work? What are the things they do in this business? So how do they carry out their operations and all that? Then you need to look at the applications, the data and services that support the business processes. Identify approved software drivers and basic configuration. Create an inventory of all assets and prioritize or rank critical assets. Understand the network architecture, map the network infrastructure, identify the controls already in place, understand policy implementation standards compliance, define the scope of the assessment, create information protection procedures to support effective planning, scheduling, coordination, and logistics. So the second phase is vulnerability assessment phase. You examine and evaluate physical security. So the issue is that, like I say, physical securing, you have your antivirus, you have your all manner of software intrusion detection, intrusion prevention system in order to guard against external attacks or breaches on the IT system. Meanwhile, somebody is just able to walk into your server room and pick up a server and leave. Then of what use are all those things that you have put in place? So physical security is very key. So check for misconfiguration and human errors, run vulnerability scans, those select type of scan based on organization or compliance requirements, identify and prioritize the vulnerabilities you see, identify them and prioritize them. They identify false positive, false negative. Now, when we are talking about false positive, you see this along, but I just need to explain this. So false positive and the false negative. False positive is when there's the scanning engine or machine or a scanning engine returns uh, an alert or gives you an alert that there's a vulnerability. Meanwhile, there is not a vulnerability. It's just like you hearing a particular sound, thinking somebody is outside your window, and you go out and you see that maybe it's just the wind blowing a leaf. So that's false positive. The false negative is when the vulnerability scan says there's no vulnerability, meanwhile there's a vulnerability. So those two things are things we want to avoid. So identify false positives and false negatives. So apply business and technology context to scanner results. So you know the context within which they operate. You apply business and technology context. They perform OSINT, that open source intelligence information gathering to validate the vulnerabilities, then create a vulnerability scan report. So the post-assessment phase will look at risk assessment, perform risk categorization. assess the level of impact, determine the threat and risk level. So that's risk assessment. You want to consider what is the risk that these vulnerabilities pose. You now perform risk categorization. You assess the level of impact or with the risk, determine the threat and risk levels. Then remediation, prioritize remediation based on the risk ranking. So you want to remediate, prioritize remediation based on the risk ranking, develop an action plan to implement the recommendation on remediation, perform root cause analysis, apply patches through fixes, capture lessons learned, conduct awareness training. So you can prioritize remediation based on the risk ranking, develop an action plan to implement the recommendation and remediation, perform root cause analysis, apply patches to fixes, capture lessons learned, conduct awareness training. So awareness training is very important. Then the next thing is verification. You now rescan the system to identify if the remediation that you carried out, if it was successful. You perform dynamic analysis, review of attack surface, monitoring, periodic vulnerability scan and assessment. Then timely remediation of identified vulnerabilities, intrusion detection and intrusion prevention logs, implementation of policies, procedures, and controls. So, what are the vulnerability types? We want to look at the different classifications of vulnerability. We have misconfiguration or weak configuration. So, this is the most common vulnerability and is mainly caused by human error. It allows attackers to break into a network and gain unauthorized access to systems. So, this is when we have examples: network misconfiguration, insecure protocols, open ports and services, errors, and weak encryption. So when you use insecure protocols, like instead of using HTTPS, you are using HTTP. Then some ports that are not supposed to be like 23, you leave it open. That's telnet. Then host misconfiguration, open permissions and unsecured root accounts. Open permission and unsecured root accounts. That's host misconfiguration. Permissions, unsecured root account. Then application flaws. Application flaws are vulnerabilities in application that are exploited by attackers. So flawed application pose security threats such as data tampering and unauthorized access to configuration stores. So examples include buffer overflow. We'll talk more about that later. Memory leaks, resource exhaustion, integer overflows, null pointers to object dereference, dynamic library injection, race conditions, improper input handling, and improper error handling. So those are application flaws. Then poor patch management. So I told you that patches are meant to help deal with software glitches or bugs that are noticed along the line. So when software owners notice such bugs, what they do is that they uh, what they do when they notice such bugs is to release patches so that you upload those patches. Those are things you see when you're updating your apps or your mobile phone. When they say you should update, it's more patches. It's more about patches that you are updating. Software vendors provide patches that prevent exploitation and reduce the probability of threats exploiting a specific vulnerability. So unpatched software can make an application, server, or device vulnerable to various attacks. So if you have not covered up vulnerability, of course, attacker can exploit it. So it makes you vulnerable. It makes that system vulnerable. Then examples: unpatched servers, unpatched firmware, unpatched operating system, and unpatched applications. Design flaws. Logical flaws in the functionality of the system are exploited by the attackers to bypass the detection mechanism and acquire access to a secure system. So incorrect encryption and poor validation of data. Then third-party risks. Third-party services can have access to privileged systems and applications through which financial information, customer and employee data, and processing the enterprise supply chain can be. So if you have third parties that have access, so through them, information can be leaked. It can be leaked. So vendor management, supply chain risk, outsource code development, data storage, and cloud-based versus on-premises risk. So other ones include default installation or default configuration. So when there are some default configuration that come with the vendor, and the person that installs that device or whatever fails to change those default configuration, so it's the attackers can guess the settings to break the system. The operating system flaws. Owing to operating system vulnerability, applications such as Trojans, worms, and viruses pose threats. So owing to operating system vulnerabilities, applications such as Trojans, worms, and viruses pose threats. So when any Trojan, we'll talk about malware very soon. So most of them take advantage of, of different flaws that exist in operating system. Then default password. So every manufacturer supplies a default password with the system. You can find default password. We'll talk more about it when we are moving on to the next module very soon, shortly after this one. So yeah. So when you fail to change those default password, attackers can just simply check. Once they know the device that is being used, they will just check for that device, check for the default password, and use it to try to log in into the system. There's 0-day vulnerabilities. These are unknown vulnerability. Anytime you see 0-day, we are talking about vulnerabilities that are not been known by the my vendors or the there are no vulnerabilities that are exposed but not yet patched. So they are not yet patched. So there are vulnerabilities, they may be known or unknown by the vendors, but they have not yet been remediated. So that's why we call them 0-day. They have not yet been remediated. It may be new, something that was just discovered newly by an attacker, and before the company or vendor can find a way to remediate or block that loophole, they keep exploiting it. As long as they keep exploiting it before the solution remediation is released, they will call it 0-day vulnerabilities. So legacy platform vulnerabilities, you have legacy platform, they are called obsolete or familiar code. Legacy platforms are usually not supported when patching technical assets such as smartphone, computers, and so on and so forth. So when you talk about legacy platform, well, I think I was in this class I was saying that um, my system is no longer being supported, though it's not up to 10 years old, but the manufacturer has stopped supporting it. It's not giving me the latest software on it. So now my browser is seriously flawed, having issues. So I'm very prone to attack, as it were, uh, with my browser, because my browser is not the latest one. So, and I can't update because my uh, operating system is not being allowed to be updated to the latest one. So those are legacy platform issues. Then systems for undocumented. So that's when you have so many systems, with so many things connected, IT assets connected without being documented. Then improper certificates and key management. So certificates are usually used to manage security in IT, especially web application security. So when you don't manage them properly, then keys also properly, the keys are used for encryption also. Types of vulnerability assessment, different types of vulnerability assessment. We have, sorry, always mute your, so that you don't distract the class. Okay, types of vulnerability assessment. We have active assessment. This one will use a network scanner to find host services and vulnerabilities. That's an active assessment. Use a network scanner to find host services and vulnerabilities. Passive assessment. This is used to sniff the network traffic to discover present active systems, network services, applications, and vulnerabilities that are present. So use to sniff the network traffic to discover present active systems, network services, applications, and vulnerabilities present. The external assessment assess the network from hacker's perspective. So when you're talking about external assessment, that means a hacker is assessing it from outside. From outside. So to discover exploits and vulnerabilities that are accessible to the outside world. So internal assessment, you scan the internal infrastructure to discover exploits and vulnerabilities. So external assessment will be done from the outside. So because we want to see what the hacker from the outside will be seeing. Then host-based assessment, you conduct a configuration level check to identify system configuration, user directories, file system, registry settings to evaluate the possibility of compromise. Network-based assessment determines possible network security attacks that may occur on the organization's system. So it determines possible network security attacks that may occur on the organization's system. So that's network-based assessment. And application assessment tests and analyzes all elements of the web infrastructure for any misconfiguration, outdated content or number. So that's application test, all elements of web infrastructure. Then database assessment focus on testing the database. So database store data, as the name implies. So for presence of data exposure, injection type vulnerabilities. Then wireless network assessment determines the vulnerabilities in the organization's wireless network. So that's when you focus on the wireless network. Then distributed assessment assesses distributed organization access such as client and server applications simultaneously through appropriate synchronization techniques. So distributed organization assessment. Then credentialed assessment assesses the network by obtaining the credential of all machines present in the network. Non-credential assesses the network without acquiring any credential of the asset present in the enterprise network. Manual assessment. In this type of assessment, the ethical hacker manually assesses vulnerabilities, vulnerability ranking, vulnerability score, etc. Automated assessment. The ethical hacker employs various vulnerability assessment tools, such as Nexus, Qualys, Java. So automated, you use different tools to try and there. So now we want to talk about vulnerability assessment tools. Vulnerability assessment tool. So vulnerability scanning solutions perform vulnerability penetration tests on the organizational network in 3 steps. Number one, locate nodes. The first step in vulnerability scanning is to locate live hosts in the target network using various scanning techniques. You have to locate live hosts first to know the hosts that are reachable. Then, secondly, you perform service and operating system discovery on them. After detecting the live host, the next step is to enumerate the open ports and services along with the operating system on the target system. So, you want to know the services and the operating system that are running. Then you test those services and operating system for known vulnerabilities. After identifying them, you test for known vulnerabilities. So number one, you locate the systems that are reachable, that are live. Number two, you find out the services that are there and the operating system that are running. Number three, you test the service and operating system for known vulnerabilities. So we have 6 types of vulnerability assessment tools. We have the host-based scanning tools. These are appropriate for servers that run various applications such as web, critical files, databases, directories, and remote accesses. These host-based scanners can detect high level of vulnerabilities and provide required information about the fixes. So they are host-based, so they are used on particular hosts. Then depth assessment tools. They used to discover and identify previously unknown vulnerabilities on a system. So these tools, they are fuzzers, which provide arbitrary input to a system interface. They are used to identify vulnerabilities to an unstable depth. So many of these tools use a set of vulnerability signatures to test whether a product is resistant to a known vulnerability or not. So they may be unknown vulnerabilities. Unknown vulnerabilities. So what fuzzers do is that they are used to send random data. So those random data that you send, they are now used to create a sort of errors. You use them to create errors so that you can be able to know. It's just like testing something to and trying to see the error. It's just like a doctor, um, maybe uh, trying to just soft touch on somebody's chest or stomach to see if there's any pain. So that's the way FOSAS operates. The application layer vulnerability assessment tools, they serve the needs of all kinds of operating system application. So observing system vulnerabilities through the internet using an external router, firewall, web server is called an external vulnerability system. So there could be external DDoS or DOS attack, network data interception, or other issue. Then scope assessment tools provide an assessment of the security by testing vulnerabilities in the applications and operating system. They provide standard controls and reporting interface. So they generate a standard report based on the information found. So these ones will give you a report. This is what we found. This is the level of vulnerability and all that. Then we have active and passive tools. The active scanners perform vulnerability checks on the network functions that consume resources on the network. So the advantage that active scanner have is that the system administrator has good control of the timing and parameters of the vulnerability scan. So the scanner cannot be used for critical operating system because it uses system resources that affect the processing of others. So it consumes a lot of system resources. So if one does not handle it carefully, it could affect other tasks. So then passive scanners are those that do not considerably affect system resources as they only observe system data and perform. Remember, in passive scanning, what you do is just to sniff the data. So you are not really probing anything. You are just sniffing the data. Then location and data examination tool. So some of the location, listed below are some of the location and data examination tools. We have network-based scanners. So network-based scanners are those that interact only with real machine where they reside and give the report to same machine after scanning. So they are network-based. So the systems in which they sit, those are the systems that they provide that they scan. Then agent-based scanners reside on a single machine but can scan several machines on the same network. They reside on a single machine but can scan several. So these are the agents. So network-based scan only the machine that they are based in. Then process scanner, network-based scanner that can scan networks of many machines on the network. Cluster scanners, they are similar to process scanner but can simultaneously perform two or more scans on different machines in the network. So if you are to choose a vulnerability tool, you have to look at some requirements. It must be capable of testing anywhere from dozens to 30,000 different vulnerabilities. It should have a sound database of vulnerabilities that frequently updated attack signatures. Pick a tool that matches the environment and expertise. Make sure to regularly update the scan engine to ensure the tool is aware of the latest vulnerabilities. Verify that the chosen vulnerability assessment tool has accurate network mapping, application mapping, and penetration tests. Ensure that the tool has several regularly updated vulnerabilities scripts for the platforms you are scanning. Make sure that any patches are applied. Failing to do so might lead to false positives. So if that particular tool has some upgrades, make sure you apply it. I've already explained what false positives are. Find out how many reports are returned, what information they contain, whether they are exportable. Check whether the tool has different levels of penetration to stop lockups. Maintenance costs of tools can be offset by effectively using them. Ensure that vulnerability assessment tool can run a scan quickly and accurately. Ensure that the tool can perform scan using multiple protocols. Verify that the tool can understand and analyze the network topology to perform the assessment. Bandwidth limitations are a major concern. When you are dealing with large network, ensure the vulnerability assessment tool has high bandwidth allocation. Ensure it has excellent query throttling features. Ensure that the tool can access fragile system and non-traditional assets. The criteria for choosing a vulnerability assessment tool: what are the types of vulnerability you want to assess? Testing capability of scanning, ability to provide query reports, efficient and accurate scanning, capability to perform smart search, functionality for writing its own tests, then test run schedule. So we have different tools for vulnerabilities. We have Qualys. Qualys is cloud-based, offers me immediate global visibility into IT system areas that might be vulnerable to latest internet threats, now to protect them. So aids in continuous identification of threats and monitoring of unexpected changes in the network before they become breaches. Qualys. Then we have Nexus, professional for identifying vulnerabilities, configuration, and malware. That one is expensive. Then GFI Landguard scans, detect, accesses, and rectify security vulnerabilities in the network and connected devices. Let's see if we can look at Qualys. Qualys. Okay. There's one that is, let me check Qualys. I'm with you. I'm too. I'm with you. I'm trying to check out. Because some of they change their website. So some that you see before, they would have changed it. So
Mm.
okay. I don't want to. It's like they started, but previously when I used it, all you just needed to do was enter. This is what I wanted to be looking for. So many of times they just change the websites, the outlook, and everything. So this gives you a form of understanding about your web. So you can test any website and see, okay, is what are the vulnerabilities that do exist on such websites, and it's still scanning. Maybe we'll check it later. But if someone can sign up for some of their free trials and app qualities VMDR, vulnerability management and detection, so but I don't want to sign up. That's why. Okay, let's wait for this. So you can see 99%. So it's scanning all the IP addresses that are related to this. So okay, so let me run. So we have OpenVAS, where a framework of several services and tools offering a comprehensive and powerful scanning and vulnerability management solution. So OpenVAS. Then NIC2, web server assessment tool that examines a web server to discover potential problems and security vulnerabilities. So okay, there you have Qualys Free Scan, which is the one I'm using presently. Akunetis Web vulnerability scanner, Nexpose, network security scanner, Sense, Be Secure, Core Impact Pro, NStalker, Manage Engine Vulnerability, NIPA Studio. Qualys Vulnerability Management is a cloud-based service that gives up immediate global visibility into where ITSM might be vulnerable to the latest internet threats and how to protect them. So can give you a scorecard report, vulnerability distribution by severity level. And Nexus Professional support. This one is very costly. Very costly. Then Saba, this one, GFI Langard. And but this one is not online. You download it. Africa User Interface. Then this one, OpenVAS. So we have tools that you can use for vulnerability assessment for on mobile phones. Vulnas, an Android application that performs passive vulnerability detection based on software version's fingerprint. Since a passive method, it can only be used to identify vulnerabilities. It cannot help you to check do compliance check. You can check for this vulnerability scanner in your Google Play Store, and you can use it to check to see if there are any vulnerabilities. I think it checks. Let me see. Does it check your phone? Trying to get. Okay, you check. You can check different targets. maybe web servers. You can use it to check web servers. So you can download this. You can download this. Let's try it. Volnas. Please, I hope you have taken note of that. Volnas scanner. Let me put it in the chat box. Okay. Volnas scanner. So this has been scanning and labs. You giving B. On some other sites, it gives them A. So once you see B, that means there are issues that need to be sorted out. But let it finish. Okay, so we also have security metrics mobile. Mobile defense tool that helps to identify mobile device vulnerabilities to protect customers' sensitive data. Helps to avoid threats that originate from mobile malware, the device theft, Wi-Fi network connectivity, data entry, personal use. It complies with PCI DSSC guidelines to prevent mobile data theft. So if you do, you can also download this. It will show you it will help you to check the vulnerabilities on your phone. Security metrics. Please always mute when you are here. Mute so as not to distract the class, please. So vulnerability assessment report. So after doing your scanning and all that, you need to prepare vulnerability assessment result report. The vulnerability assessment report discloses the risks detected after scanning a network. It alerts the organization of possible attacks and suggests countermeasures. Information available in the report is used to fix security issues. So that's a vulnerability assessment report. Vulnerability assessment report. So it tells us about the risks that were detected after scanning. One minute, please. So, oh, sorry, somebody is complaining of being kicked out of the class. Probably network. I only I only muted. All right. So vulnerability assessment report discloses the risk detected after you scan it to tell you about these are the risks we discovered. Then it alerts the organization of the possible attacks and gives solutions. Then information that is found or available in the report is used to fix the security flaws that are found. So the components of variability assessment report, we have executive summary, assessment scope and objectives, testing narrative, finding summary, remediation summary, assessment scope and objective, testing narrative, finding summary, remediation summary. Then findings. What are the scan hosts? The type of vulnerabilities that were identified, detailed information on identified vulnerabilities, notes describing additional details of scan results. So the scan host, type of vulnerabilities that were identified, detailed information on identified vulnerabilities, notes describing additional details of scan results. Then recommendations. So these are all going to be things you will see in a vulnerability assessment report. Recommendation, prioritization of remediation based on the risk ranking, action plan to implement the recommendation for each identified vulnerability, root cause analysis, application of patches and fixes, lessons learned, awareness training, implementation of periodic vulnerability assessments, implementation of policies, procedures, and controls, assessment overview, assessment methodology, scan information, target information, risk assessment, classification of vulnerabilities based on the risk level, potential vulnerabilities that can compromise the system or application, critical hosts with severe vulnerabilities. So please, I will be forced to pick you out. This place. Always mute your mic, please. Mute your mic. Don't distract the class. It's being recorded. We don't want all this, please. So this is a report of the test that was done. It's majorly testing for transport layer security and secure socket layer. It's looking the certificate is okay, protocol support, key exchange, cipher strength. So it looks at all this information and decides the overall rating it will give. So so it's not really a detailed result, but at least it gives you an idea of where you stand. So there are some websites, if you test some other website, they score A because they have little or no flaws. So but you see that the major issue with this one is this protocol support. So okay, we want to move to the next module talking about hacking systems, system hacking. So we'll be looking at the different techniques to gain access to a system. Now talk about privilege escalation techniques. We'll explain different techniques to gain and maintain remote access to a system. Then we'll describe different types of rootkits, then explaining steganography and steganalysis techniques. Then we'll apply different techniques to hide evidence of compromise, then apply various system hacking countermeasures. So those are the things we'll be talking about in this module. So we are pushing that in the next 1 hour. Let's see how far we can go. So when it comes to Windows system, there's a way Windows stores passwords. Windows it stores password. There has been a trend, let me, for a lack of better word, before now, um they used to have the NT. There's what we call NT. That's the form of authentication. NTLM authentication protocol. We have NTLM authentication protocol and LM authentication protocol. So, and in Windows, passwords are not stored in clear text. They are stored as hashes in what we call the security accounts manager database, which is this one. So Windows stores user password in security account manager database or in the Active Directory database in domains. So if it's a single system, it stores it in SAM, that security account manager database, but in domains, that's when you have several systems, maybe in a network, it stores it in Active Directory database. So, but now we add NTLM, and these are types of authentication. So when you talk about authentication, is confirming a user. So for instance, you have signed up for a particular system or a particular service. Now you enter your username and your password. It says correct and allows you to log in. So that is authentication. So authentication, that's to show that indeed this person is the person. This person is who he says he is. You understand? So that's the essence of that. So um NTLM authentication protocol types as follows: NTLM authentication and LM authentication protocol. So there are protocols that are used even for authentication in Windows, but that has now shifted. Now, Windows now uses what we call Kerberos. Kerberos, it provides a stronger authentication for clients or server applications than NTLM. So, for Kerberos both the server and the user verify each other's identity. So normally the server is connecting to the no, the client is connecting to the server. The client is the one that will say, okay, I want to authenticate to confirm my identity with the server. But in under Kerberos, the client verifies, the server also verifies. So both verify each other, the user or the client, they verify, server and user verify each other's identity. So messages that are sent through Kerberos are protected against replay and eavesdropping. So when you talk about eavesdropping, that means somebody is able to see what is being transmitted. But when we talk about replay attack is a kind of attack where the attacker can capture the packets that have been sent. And when the whole session is over, he can just put it back. You want to use it? The network gone. I'm just. Who is Olomure Adewusi? Why are you disturbing the class? Please, if you're mute again, I will eject you out of the class. So, Kerberos employs key distribution center, which is a trusted third party. It consists of two logically distinct parts: an authentication server and a ticket granting server. Kerberos uses tickets to prove a user's identity. So, um, uses tickets, so both authenticate one another. So, how are our passwords stored in Windows Security Account Manager? You can see this is Sheila, and this is our password test. So it goes through an hashing algorithm, and by the time you check this test, this is what it is now stored as. It is stored this way: NTLM hash. It is stored this way. So it's not stored as text. So that's why we're saying that NTLM hashes or password are not stored in clear text. That's what we mean when we say passwords are not stored in clear text. They are not stored in clear text. So when somebody wants to try to log in into maybe wants to connect to a server or whatever, what it does is that it types in the password, and once it types in the password, uh, the hash there's a hash algorithm that turns that clear text password into hashes. So now the computer sends login request to the domain controller. The domain controller compares computer response with the response it created with its own hash. If they match, logon is a success. So okay, computer sends login request to domain controller. The domain controller sends logon challenge. Then computer sends response to logon challenge. So the domain controller will now compare the computer session with the response it created with its own hash. And if there's a match between the hash, you can see this hash and this hash, you can see that they are the same thing. If you compare it, they are the same thing. So you get a match. Excuse me. For Kerberos authentication, you have a key distribution center. So user requests to the authentication server. The authentication server uh, replies to the user request. Then the user now sends a request to the ticket granting server. Then the ticket granting server now replies. So once the client is cleared, you understand, it now makes a request to the application server to access a service. So the application server will now reply to prove it's really the server that the client is expecting. So in essence, this client has authenticated himself. The server also authenticated to show it's really the server. Now we want to move out to an aspect that attackers use, which is the issue of password cracking. How do attackers crack passwords? So password cracking techniques are used to recover passwords for computer systems. So attackers use password cracking techniques to gain unauthorized access to vulnerable systems. So most of the password crackings are successful because of quick or easily guessable password. So once you have a password that is easily guessable, you are using your girlfriend's name, your wife's name, your dog's name, your date of birth, and all other information that attackers can really identify with you, then it makes it easy for uh, them to be able to um, crack the password that you are using. So, and if you are using password that can easily be found in a dictionary words and all that, so those are easily guessable passwords. Then short length passwords also. Different types of password attack, non-electronic. This one doesn't involve any probing or tools. Shoulder surfing, looking over your shoulder. So you have to be careful when you are entering passwords or pin. Some of you will have patterns you draw when you want to access um, maybe your phones. So be careful. People may be shoulder surfing and looking at you, and they can pick up the phone and use it. Then social engineering. Social engineering involves um, manipulating people to give up information, manipulating people to give up information. Um, that's social engineering. To manipulate people, like this WhatsApp hijacking that is so common. Without the person giving up that information about uh, the code that you will use, the attacker will use. That no person, nobody can hijack the WhatsApp. Nobody can hijack the WhatsApp without the code. So they will just call you. This one, there's a code. There is a meeting. Send the code so that we can this is for a meeting before you know. So and that same way we give up information to attackers. Them don't start diving is when attackers go through their targets trashes to find out vital information. So those are non-electoral. You see that those things don't really involve any tools that you want to use or anything like that. The active online attacks, attacker perform powerful cracking by directly communicating with the victim's machine. So these are online attacks like dictionary, brute forcing and rule-based attack. So you run a dictionary word, brute forcing, guess as much as possible, then rule-based. So rule-based attack, when you know that um, in that particular target, maybe the password has to have first letters to be capital, it has to contain one symbol, one number. So those are rule-based attacks. You can use those rules and try to get it. Then hash injection attack or mask attack. Hash injection attack or mask attack. These are um, injecting ash and also mass. Then LLM now, MBTNS poisoning, Trojan stroke spyware, stroke keyloggers. We'll talk more about this. You have keyloggers. So what keyloggers do is that if an attacker is able to plant a keylogger on your system, every single keystroke that you press, the attacker will have a record of it. You will have a record of it, and having a record of it, you will be able to use that. What's it called? You will be able to use the those what's it called? Those things you have entered. They can use it later because it's spying on you. So if, for instance, you enter your password, it will be sent to him because he's the one that planted that keylogger in your system. Then we have password guessing stroke spraying. Password guessing stroke spraying. This is no password spraying. Basically, an attacker knows password. He's able to get the password to maybe one of your accounts, maybe Facebook. So, and you are the kind of person that uses the same password for all these things. So you can do password spraying and just spray your password across and see if it will work. The internal monologue attack, cracking Kerberos password, and passive online attacks. He perform password cracking without communicating with the authorizing party while sniff the wire to see. So if the communication is through insecure protocol, it will reveal your password. Manage the middle attack, replay attack, offline attack. Attacker copies the target password file, tries to crack it. So those are rainbow table and distributed network attack. So dictionary attack. So this is a tool. You load the dictionary file. It's loaded into the cracking application that runs against user account. So if you are using a dictionary word, it will be able to crack the password. It will crack the password. So, like I said, password spraying, they target multiple user accounts simultaneously and crack the password using a small set of commonly used passwords. Attackers use crack map exec to automate the password spraying process to crack domain or work group members' passwords. So once you capture, okay, these are commonly used passwords, they will use it to target other accounts or other platforms that you may be signed on to. The attackers recover passwords from hashes with a specific set of characters based on some information known to the attacker. He uses hash cards to perform a mask attack. So it covers password from hashes with a specific set of characters based on some information. Then other active online attack password guessing. The failure rate is very, very high. Of course, the attacker is trying to look at the information about you. He knows some things about you and tries to use those information to guess, okay, I know this person, he was born here, he worked here, he did this one here. Peradventure, he will be able to may likely be the password that he will use. Then he will try it. He will try it. So find a valid user, create a list of possible passwords, run password from high to low probability, key in each password until the correct password is discovered. Then we have Trojan, spyware, and keylogger. So when you have your system is infected with keylogger, like I said, the keylogger will store every keystroke, everything you press on your keyboard. It will record it and send it to the attacker. So uh, it sends back all user credentials to the attacker. It sends back all credentials to the attacker. So other types of active online attack, we have combinator attack. Attacker combines entry of one dictionary with that of a second dictionary to generate a new word list to crack the password of target system. So you will use two dictionaries. So try to use those two dictionaries, perhaps maybe two different languages or two different dictionaries, maybe or a technology dictionary and maybe a normal dictionary, and try to use the combination of two words to try to then fingerprint. Attackers break the passphrase into fingerprint comprising single and multi-character combinations to crack complex passwords. Then Prince attack is an advanced version of combination attack where attackers use a single input dictionary to build chains of combined words instead of taking input from two different dictionaries. So advanced version of a combinator attack where attackers use single input dictionary to build chains of combined words instead of taking input from two different dictionaries. So single input dictionary. So they use it to build chains of words. Then toggle case attack, they implement all possible combinations of uppercase and lower case version of a word present in input dictionary. So they try to use both the uppercase, but eventually use uppercase. So all possible combination. The Markov chain, they gather password database, split each password into 2 and 3 character long syllables. Using this character element, a new alphabet is developed, which is then matched with the existing password database. Then GPU-based attack, attackers exploit OpenGL API on GPUs to set up a spy on the victim device that infers user activities and passwords entered on a browser. So exploit the OpenGL API that infers user activities and passwords entered on a browser. So that's GPU based. So hashcats can be used to recover hashes of password. Attackers use hashcat to perform password attacks such as brute force attack, dictionary attacks, and mask attacks. To perform mask attack, attacker must know the flag used for the building, chat set, custom chat set, and attack mode. to create an appropriate pattern for the password. If it's a built-in chat set, it helps to specify the type of character to be used. So if it's L, if it's U, if it's D, if it's H, if it's HS, and so on. So custom is used in situation where the attacker is unsure about the type of character in a particular placeholder. In hash mode, attackers use the iPhone M flag with hash card to specify the hash mode, that is the type of hash to crack, such as MD5, NTML, or SHA256. So there are different types of hashes. So run the following command to crack password that contains 6 characters, in which the first 3 are lowercase alphabets and the last 3 characters are numbers. So the password pattern appears to be L L L L D D D. So hashcat A-A3 M 0 MD5 hashes dot text. So A specifies the attack mode, which is 3, brute force attack. M specifies the hash type, which is MD5. So L specifies that LU specifies that character is either an uppercase or lowercase alphabet. To crack a password hash of unknown length, use the increment flag by providing the maximum and minimum length of the password. So hash cats -M0-A3 I increment minimum 6, increment maximum 10. So that's minimum length of password is 6, maximum length is 10. All right, so we can also make use of default password, like I said. Default password are supplied with the new equipment. Usually, default password provided by manufacturers of password protected device allow the user to access the device during initial. So when you are setting it up, you use the initial the default password to access the device, because everything will come with a password. So and then you change it later. So however, often some administrators will forget to set the new password or ignore the password change recommendation and continue using. Some people can't just be bothered. They feel it's too stressful. You don't have time for this. So they now just do what they like. So attackers can exploit these labs and find the default password for the target device from manufacturer website, or using online tools that show default passwords to access the target device successfully. So attackers use default password and a list of words or dictionary that they use to perform password guessing attacks. So the following are some of the online tools to search default password. So you can use any of these to check for any password, any default password. Open says.me, 40pounded.com, CIT.net, default password.us, routerpasswords.com. So it depends. Or you just know, once you get there, just search for the particular device. Particular device. Let's even look at this. You can get default password from crt.net. So you have the database here. So different devices. So if you want to check their password, let's see. Cisco or Checkpoint. Cisco. So Cisco intrusion detection system is the user ID, root, password attack, level administrator. Different ones, guest, password none. So you can, if you want to get the type of device, you can try this. You can try it. So these are all tools that are available for us. So, like I said, you can use either Trojan, spyware, or keyloggers. The attacker can use that to try to get a victim's password. So, passive online attacks, wire sniffing. Attackers run packet sniffer tools on the local area network to access and record the raw network traffic. They capture data, make sensitive information such as passwords, FTP, R login sessions, and emails. Sniff credentials are used to gain unauthorized access to the target system. So wire sniffing, computationally complex, hard to perpetrate. So use packet sniffer tools on local area network. So you have to be on the same network in order to be able to sniff um, another device. So other types of attacks that we have under passive online attacks for password is man in the middle attack. The attacker acquires access to the communication channels between the victim and server to extract information needed. So he tries to insert himself so in such a way that um, anything that the server and the victim are sending or receiving passes through him. So we'll learn more about that later. We'll have a module that is dedicated to session hijacking and all that. So in replay attack, packets and authentication tokens are captured using a sniffer. After the relevant information is extracted, the tokens are placed back on the network. So it's like getting someone's password, but this one is not password. It's like how do I put it? Access information. So the tokens are just replayed. You replay it. Meanwhile, it's not the person that originally listened, but the attacker was able to gain access to that information through sniffing, and now just goes, puts it back, and tries to use that information to access the service that uh, the victim was trying to access in the first place. So all these things, they are like some of the things we'll talk about. They are things that are proof of concept. They are not really things that are possible, but proof of concept. They are relatively hard to perpetrate. The person must be trusted by one or both sides. It can sometimes be broken by invalidating traffic. So then we have what we call offline attacks, rainbow table attacks. So, like I said, passwords are not stored in clear text. They are stored in ashes. So because they are stored in ashes, what attackers do is that of course, there's an algorithm that calculates the hash of each password. You understand? So what the attacker does is that they have what we call a rainbow table. So rainbow table is what someone could compare to a table of maybe words and opposite. You understand? When we're small, we had those kind of tables that had word and opposite. So if you have a word, you will see the opposite. So in the same way, you will have the clear text of a particular password, then you have the hashes. So what attackers do is that they try to capture the hashes, stored hashes of the password. So what they do is that they just compare the hashes they have captured with what they have on the rainbow table. Once there's any match with the word, they will just look at the clear text meaning or the clear text of what's the clear text interpretation of that hash, and then they have the password. So that's what they do. So create tools that you can use to create rainbow tables. We have RTGen. It needs several parameters to generate a rainbow table. The syntax for command line is RTGen hash underscore algorithm chassis plain text length minimum plain text length maximum table underscore index chain underscore length chain underscore non-part index. We have password recovery tools, air console distributed password recovery, breaks complex password, recovers strong encryption keys, and unlocks documents in a production environment. It breaks complex password, recovers strong encryption keys, and unlocks documents in a production environment. So that's Lconsoft distributed password, distributed Consoft distributed password recovery. So password recovery toolkits, password kit forensic, hashcat, Windows password recovery tool, PC unlocker. So Consoft distributed password application allows attackers to break complex password, recover strong encryption tools. They use this tool to recover password of the target system to gain unauthorized access to the critical files and other systems. Other tools as a password recovery toolkit, access data.com, password kit forensic, password.com, hashcat.net, Windows password recovery tool, Windows password recovery.com, PC unlocker, top-password.com. So tools that you can use to extract password hashes. Mimikatz, PowerShell, DS internals, PowerShell, NTD extract. So PW self extract LM and NTLM password hashes of local user accounts from the security account manager database. So it extracts it. So this is how you can extract hashes. So using p password dump 7.exe. So as you can see in this particular screenshot, so this tool is capable of dumping protected files, can also extract passwords offline by selecting the target files. The use of this program requires admin privileges on remote systems. So look at this screenshot. He was able to extract hashes. This where you say administrator 500. 500 is an administrator ID. Attackers always look out for this. So look at the hash of different accounts there. You can also use domain password audit tool, a Python script that generates password use statistics from password hashes done from a domain controller and a password craft file using hashcard.port generated using hashcard. It generates HTML report with clickable links which an attacker can open to analyze username, current password, and other password statistics. So an attacker initially dumps LM and NT file from the domain controller using the compromised admin privileges, following which he cracks those LM hashes and loads them into the password list using domain password audit tool. You use NTD SUT AC 90DS IFM CRFU C10Q to dump password hashes from domain controller. Then the dump contains two files, Active Directory ntds.dit and registry system. Now we convert the output file format to the format accepted by the dpart tool using the Python script secret_dump.py. The script stores the output file in the user.ntds format. This history flag can be included above command to view the password history in the report. The third step, you create a password craft file, the format supported by dpart2. dpart2 supports the file formats of both hashcat and John the Ripper tools. You run the following command to crack LM hashes of users.ntds in the hashcat.port format. So to crack LM hashes using John the Ripper, run the following command. Run dpart script with H or HF arguments to view all available options. Dpart master. Execute it with user.ntds and hashcat. Simple dpart.py. Customer.ntds represent hashes extracted from domain controller. List of cracked passwords, that's C. They are shown in the screenshot. The output of the above command is an HTML report which clickable option which can be opened in the default browser. So there are tools for cracking password, loft crack and off crack. Loft crack is used to audit password and recover applications. Off crack is a Windows password cracker based on rainbow tables. It comes with graphical user interface and runs on multiple platforms. So off crack, so Windows password cracker based on rainbow tables, comes with graphical user interface and runs on multiple platforms. Rainbow crack cracks hashes with rainbow tables. Uses time memory trade-off algorithm to crack hashes. So we have other tools: John the Ripper, Hashcat, TSA Hydra, Medusa, Secure Shell, Boot Fast. So password cracking tools allow you to reset unknown or lost Windows local administrator, domain administrator, and other user account passwords. In the case of forgotten passwords, it even allows users instant access to their log computer without reinstalling Windows. Attackers can use password cracking tools to crack passwords of target systems. So love crack, it helps to audit password and recover application. It recovers lost window password with the help of dictionary hybrid rainbow table and brute force attack also checks the strength of the password. So attackers use loft crack to crack the password of the target to gain access to the system. That's loft crack. Then off crack, Windows cracking, password cracking tool that uses rainbow table for cracking password. Comes with GUI and runs on different operating systems such as Windows, Linux, Unix. Attackers use off crack to perform brute force attacks and crack password hashes of the target system. Also have rainbow crack hashes with rainbow tables. Like I said before, when you crack a password with rainbow table contain hashes. So once it compares the hashes it has found with the ones that it has in its database, if there's a match, it will just indicate the clear text of that one. So passwords, this is password sorting is the countermeasure against password cracking. What happens is that before the password is hashed, you no characters or characters, random string of characters are added, so that if you even get the hash, you'll be confused because it makes it more difficult to reverse the hashes and defeat pre-computed hash attacks. So, for instance, um, this this same password, but different hashes due to different sorts. The same password, but different hashes due to different sorts. So the different characters were added to it. So if at all somebody wants to use pre-computed hashes, it will not be successful because um, after the password, the random character was added before the hashing. So cryptography sort consists of random data bits used as an input to a one-way function, the other being a password. Instead of passwords, the output of the one-way function can be stored and used to authenticate users. A sort combines with a password by a key derivation function to generate a key for use with a cipher or other cryptographic algorithm. This technique generates different hashes for the same password, which renders password cracking even more difficult. But Windows does not sort its password. So how do we defend against password cracking? Use information security um, audit to monitor and track password attacks. Disallow use of the same password during the password. So when there's a change of password, don't allow the same password to be used. Um, Disallow password sharing. Don't allow passwords to be shared. Disallow the use of password that can be found in the dictionary. Do not use clear text protocols and protocols with weak encryption. So when you use clear text protocols, they transmit everything in clear text. Set the password change policy to 30 days. So every 30 days, your password needs to be changed. Avoid storing passwords in an unsecure location. Do not use any system default password. So these are ways to defend against password cracking. Then make password hard to guess by requiring 8 to 12 alphanumeric characters, a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols. Applications either store passwords in memory, neither store password in memory or write them to disk in clear text. Use a random string as a prefix or suffix to the password for encryption. Enable skill with a strong password to encrypt and protect the security account manager database. This allows use of passwords such as date of birth, spouse, child, or pet's name. Monitor servers log for brute force attacks on the user's account. Lock out an account. So when you have an account that is before all this type of attack we have been talking about, before it's successful, it takes a lot of time. It takes many attempts. So if there is a mechanism, account lockout mechanism on the that particular uh, device or IT system, for instance, three wrong passwords and the account is logged out, that will cut the attacker off. He will not be able to do any other thing against that system. So once it says you get your password wrong 3 to 5 times and that account is logged until maybe 24 hours or until maybe administrator releases it. So those kind of mechanisms allow us to deter attackers, to stop them in their tracks. So for LLMNR and MBTNS poisoning, you disable LMBNR. You then also you disable MBTNS. So open the okay. Let's go to this with the steps to disable LLMNR and MBTNS. Open local group policy editor. Navigate to local computer policy, computer configuration, administrative templates, network, DNS client. The DNS client, double click turn off multicast name resolution, select the enabled radio button, and then click OK. So you turn it off. Then disabling MBTNS, open the control panel, navigate to network and internet, network and sharing, click on change adapter settings. Right click on network adapter and click properties, select TCP/IP version 4 and then click properties. Under the general tab, go to advanced wins. From the net browse setting, check the disable net browse over TCP/IP video button and click OK. These are for Windows system. You can use Vindicate. Vindicate is an LNMRB MDNS spoofing detection toolkit to detect name service spoofing. Responder helps security professionals to detect rogue hosts running responder on public Wi-Fi networks. So we'll talk about password cracking when it comes to system, because when you are trying to hack a system, one of the things that stops you in your tracks is what you get to a login page and you have to log in. So, and that's where the attacker now tries to use password cracking. Of course, before you can do password cracking, you must have obtained. Remember, there are places where we talked about where you can, when you looked at enumeration. Enumeration was what was to help us to obtain usernames. So those usernames now we have obtained them, but we need to be able to now log in into those services, and that's why we need password cracking in order to be able to log in into those services. You understand? So we need password cracking to crack the password. We have got the username already, but we now need the password. That's what we have been looking at all this while. So the next step or another way for system hacking is vulnerability exploitation. Remember, we talked about vulnerabilities, how to get vulnerabilities either through we have databases cwe.org, cv.org, cwe.mitre.org. If you check the video, you'll see those sites there. So vulnerability exploitation. So those places, if you discover maybe the operating system or the services that are running on the target device. So all you need to check is to check those places you see vulnerabilities that you can exploit. So let's just go on. We'll get to know more about that. So vulnerability exploitation involves the execution of multiple complex interrelated steps to gain access to a remote system. The steps involved are as follows. Identify the vulnerability. Identify the vulnerability. Get to look at, know the vulnerability first. Determine the risk that is associated with the vulnerability. Determine the capability of the vulnerability. Develop the exploit. The exploit. For instance, somebody sees maybe a weak burglary. You understand? So what does he do? He maybe looks for a strong wood or iron. You understand? To try to break that burglary. So that's the exploit. What he uses to take advantage of the store of the loophole. Select the method for delivery, whether local or remote. Then generate and deliver the payload. Then gain remote access. Generate and deliver the payload. Then gain remote access. So attackers identify the vulnerability that exists using various techniques discussed in previous modules. They include footprint reconnaissance, scanning, enumeration, and vulnerability analysis. So after identifying, look at this, very important. After identifying the operating system used and the vulnerable services running on the target system, they use various online exploit sites such as exploit-db and packet storm to detect vulnerabilities in underlying operating system. So these are places where you can uh, get different exploits that you can use. For exploit database. So if you have, for instance, I don't know if you have anything relating to Windows 11, yeah. So you have different exploits that you can use. So and you can see the type. They're either local. You have to be that's within the same network, or you can do it remotely. You can do it remotely. So get to know more about this as we go on. To this an exploit. See, good policy remote code execution. So it can work against Windows Server 2003, Windows Vista, Windows Server 2008, Windows 7, Windows 2 Server 2008, Windows 8, Windows Server 2012, Windows RT, Windows 8.1, so on and so forth. Tested on Windows 7 and Windows Server 2012. So platform Windows. So description, while there exists multiple advices for vulnerability and video demos of successful exploitation, there's no public exploit code for MS-15, which is this particular one, exploit CV 2015-08. This exploit code targets vulnerable systems in order to modify registry keys to disable SMB sign, achieve system level remote code execution and user level remote code execution. So this is where you uh, get all those exploits that you can use. Then you determine the risk associated with the vulnerability. After identifying vulnerability, you determine the risk. So remember, you can use your vulnerability scanning machines to know what is the vulnerability. Then you can even check like, let me see, cv.org, cv. So CV, you can search. Let's see if we have anything around Windows. Let me check this another. Okay. So I'm searching for common vulnerabilities and exposures. You can see the website. So you can use this to try to research to see what are the latest vulnerabilities that can be found. So common vulnerabilities exposure. While this website will give you explanation on how to the exploits. So you compare the information that you are given. So you can go to develop the exploit. After determining the capability of vulnerability, attackers use exploit from online exploit sites such as exploit database, exploit-db, which I showed you, or they develop their own using tools such as Metasploit. Then you select the method to use to deliver, whether local or remote. You generate and deliver the payload. So using tools such as Metasploit and deliver it to the remote system, either using social engineering or through a network. So attackers inject malicious shell code in the payload, which then, when executed, establishes a remote shell to the target system. And after you gain remote access, after generating the payload, they run the exploit to gain remote shell access to the target system. Now they can run various malicious commands on remote shell and control the system. So we have the exploit sites. We have exploit-db, includes details of latest vulnerabilities present in various operating system, devices, applications. Attackers can search exploit database to discover vulnerabilities to that target system, download it, and use exploit tools such as Metasploit to gain remote access. So Metasploit is in Parrot operating system. So you can see buffer overflow, you search, and see then vol.db. It includes details of latest vulnerability and exploit rated based on highest exploitation probability. Attackers can search vol.db to identify vulnerabilities and exploit them. So you can also, this is another resource. You can use them. Vulners, security database containing descriptions for a large amount of software vulnerabilities in machine readable formats. So vulners, vol.db, exploit-db, then this is one I showed you earlier, mytrw.cv.org. All right, so buffer overflow, a buffer. So every program, every application you see, there's an allocated memory to it. So, but when it overruns that memory, that's what we call buffer overflow. Buffer is an area of adjacent memory location allocated to a program application to handle its runtime data. So, buffer overflow overrun is a common vulnerability in an application or program that accepts more data than the allocated buffer. Vulnerability allows the application to exceed the buffer while writing data to the buffer and overwrite neighboring memory locations. Attackers exploit this vulnerability to inject malicious code into the buffer to damage files, modify program data, access critical information, escalate privilege, gain shell access, etc. So why are programs vulnerable to buffer overflow? Lack of boundary checking, using older versions of programming languages, using unsafe and vulnerable functions, lack of good program practices, failing to set proper filtering and validation principles, executing code present in stack management, improper memory allocation, insufficient input sanitization. So this kind of attack allows uh, attackers to be able to escalate privilege and carry out some manipulations. So it's a very, very serious type of attack. So, but why it's possible because they are using of old codes, lack of proper user inputs and sanitization, and other types of issues that's common. So, type of buffer overflow, stack-based buffer overflow. Stack is used for static memory uh, allocation, stores the variables in last in, first out order. So there are two stack operations. Push stores the data onto the stack, and POP removes data from the stack. Pop push stores it, pop removes it. So if an application is vulnerable to stack-based overflow, the attackers take control of the EIP register and replace the return address of the function with the malicious code that allows them to gain shell access to the target system. So that's stack-based. Then the other one is when you look at this, you see data on stack segment, end of stack, then bottom of stack, data on buffer overflow, data on stack segment, new return address, overwritten data on stack segment, end of that. So this malicious code that has been input there, that has been inputted. Heap-based buffer overflow, we have talked about stack-based, heap-based. Um, heap memory is dynamically allocated at runtime during the execution of the program. It stores program data. So heap-based overflow occurs when a block of memory is allocated to a heap and data is written without any bounds checking. It leads to overwriting dynamic object pointers, heap headers, heap-based data, virtual function tables. Attackers exploit based buffer overflow to take control of programs execution. Unlike stack overflow, heap overflows are inconsistent and have different exploitation techniques. So stack is allocated, but heap-based is dynamic. So it's what during runtime, the memory that is allocated. So, but when it is overwritten, um, attackers can use it to take control of the way a program is executed, the way it is executed. So you have heap before overflowing, normal, but after overflow, this is what we see. Okay, so we'll pause here and we'll continue on Saturday. So please check through all we have talked about so far and uh, look through it. Check all that we have learned in the past 2 days, not only 2 days since we began. So, and look through it. Look through it. So, see you next weekend. Thank you. Thank you. God bless.